Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories with updates as well. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. And our first story comes from a throwaway account, which was titled, "Am I the arsehole for not wanting to name our son after wife's dead brother?" And now comes with an update as well. Obligated, this is a throwaway. I don't want this reaching friends or family. Also, I'm sorry for the length. I didn't know a good way to shorten this without leaving out anything important. I was directed here upon the advice of a friend, after the issue escalated to a huge argument, approximately 3 hours ago, that resulted in myself leaving our home to go to a buddy's house. I am still here and unsure how to go about resolving this issue with my wife. Myself, 28 male, and my wife, 26 female, have been together for 10 years and married for 4 of those. My wife is pregnant with our first child, a boy, and she is due in early July. Now on to the issue that has arisen. My wife wants to name our son after her brother, who passed a little over a year ago. Her brother, we'll call him T, was her only sibling and they were very close growing up, as they were only 2 years apart. However, her brother was not the most pleasant person. Her brother was a drug addict starting from age 14 to 15. He stole from everyone around him, including myself and my wife. He was abusive to every one of his partners and his child, and he served several years behind bars. T was also abusive to my wife and her parents. He had a stay away order from our home because he broke in while we were away and stole our TV, my wife's jewelry box, and one of my hunting rifles. T passed last year in April from a drug overdose, and it affected my wife very deeply. It was her first major loss she has suffered, and she still attends therapy to help cope. When we found out we were having a boy, she immediately wanted the name to be T's name. I heavily disagreed, and I have offered many replacements, other family names like her father or grandfather's, but she will not budge. She wants our son to have the exact same name as her brother, first and middle. She has even gone as far to say if we name him something else, she will have it changed, or only call him by T. My final straw was when my wife ordered a blanket with T's name sewn into it for our son. I blew up and told her I was not naming our child after a drug addict who took advantage of everyone around him. My wife blew up at me. She screamed at me to leave, threatened to call the police if I didn't. She called me a piece of shit for talking about a dead brother like he was trash. I did leave. I told her I would attempt to speak to her again about this once we had both calmed down, and I apologized for speaking about T in a negative way. I'm getting calls non-stop from her family calling me names for speaking about T and not wanting to honor him by naming our son after him. My family is on my side, her family is on her side, and my friends are split on the matter. So Reddit, strangers on the internet, I need your opinion on if I'm indeed a massive arsehole for not wanting this name for our child. Ugh, what an awful situation to be in, and I'm not sure what advice you could give that would change your wife's or the family's mind on this. She clearly loves him very, very much. And there's clearly just a lot of grief going on. And she's having to deal with a lot of emotional feelings going on because she's going to counseling as well. But to me, from my point of view, I think this is an absolute awful idea. And I know the guy had his issues, but to OP, he wasn't a particularly nice person to a lot of people, it sounded like. And I'm not sure about you, but whenever I see a name, and I've heard it from other people as well, I've spoken about my teacher friend in the past, and we talk about kids and having kids and what the names would be, etc. And you reel off names, and they refuse to name their child certain names because they associate them with children that's been in their class who have been like little shits, basically. And I don't think I would want to name my child associated with someone that, that would bring up negative feelings for me. There's certainly some names I associate that bring up negative feelings instantly for me. Might be the nicest person in the world, but I still hear that name and I'm like, ooh, But now we're going to go to the comments, and Sniffin says, not the arsehole, naming someone after an abusive family member is never a good idea. Especially if you both can't agree on it. Especially if she wants him to have the exact same first and middle name as him. I could understand one or the other, but both seems like she's almost trying to replace him. Opie replied saying, I have tried to approach that with her, but she is very adamant that she is only trying to honor her brother's legacy. I'd be willing to give our son T's middle or first name, but she is refusing. She wants both, and she is a force to be reckoned with. Jell says, don't you and your wife want your son to have a clean slate? Why put the burden of someone else on a newborn child like that? I get the phrase, although I don't agree with it necessarily, don't talk ill of the dead. You also shouldn't anglicise the dead either. I imagine when your kid can talk and he asks who he's named after. Well son, you're named after your drug addict uncle. Can I have a story about him? Oh, this one time he needed money for drugs, so he broke in and stole our TV. Such an incurable trickster, that one. Like, what the actual fudge? Can you imagine what that could do to the psyche of a child? He should have the chance to determine his own identity. If your wife wants to honor him, there are better ways. Your son is not a replacement or chance of redemption for the failed life of her brother. This is not a unilateral decision. A beggy chooser says, not the arsehole. I don't know why no one has brought this up already, but naming their son the exact same name as her brother. He's going to grow up in the brother's shadow. I really hope your wife and her family don't try to use your son as a replacement for the person they lost. Which Opie replies saying, this is what I've worried about, considering she wants the first and middle name. Our son would have the exact same name as T. T's own son was not even named after him, so I also worry how it would affect the relationship between the cousins. Bonnie Mai says, my brother died recently. If we have a son, his name will be his middle name. Is that something your wife would agree to? Kids should have their own identities, not the arsehole. And Opie replied saying, I would be fine with his middle name or first name, but she wants both. I've tried numerous times to find names she likes to pair with either of those, but to no avail. She wants our son to have the exact same name as her brother. Last name will be the same anyway since I took hers when we got married. And one more from White Rice who says, ugh, tricky situation. I'm sure she's still grieving, which tends to kind of cover bad past behavior, at least temporarily for some people. Obviously she knows the things her brother did in recent years, but I'm sure she's also remembering the closeness from when they were kids. Plus pregnancy hormones now, not an excuse for anything, but still. I'd say therapy in the long term, but in the interim, and for this particular issue, find a truly impartial person who'd be willing to mediate a conversation between you two. You maybe need to be more understanding of the fact that he wasn't just an addict. He'd been in her life for a whole life, and prior to the addiction issue, he was different. She needs to understand that she can't threaten things or unilaterally make big decisions about your child together. Good luck, I hope you can work it out, and I hope she can get some help to better deal with her loss. So then OP comes in with the update which says, hello internet humans. Not sure if any of you remember my first post a few months back, but I just logged on and saw I had a few messages, so I figured I would post an update. Sorry in advance for the length. So if you recall, in my first post, me and my wife were expecting a baby boy in early July, and our conflict was occurring over my wife wanting to name our son after a late brother. We got into a huge fight. Some names were called and threats were made, and I was led to this subreddit to ask advice and opinions of internet strangers. Well, a week after the post I sat down with my wife and we had a very long and difficult conversation. She broke down and admitted she was struggling more than she let on with the loss of her brother. And she told me she felt uncomfortable talking to me about it due to my feelings towards him and how he lived his life. I was devastated, to say the least. I've never felt like such a horrible partner. I was selfish. I failed to see him as anything more than his mistakes, and I failed to support my wife through his death. It was a long talk with lots of tears, and we both agreed to be more open in the future and less judgmental. We started attending therapy together less than 2 weeks after that, and we have been going ever since, once a week. It was rough at first, but it has helped tremendously in dealing with the bumps in the road of marriage. As for our son, we came to an agreement on a name after lots of long discussion. Her first name we both adored, and her brother's middle name, just spelled differently. A good compromise for both of us, and it was my son's own name that no one before him had carried. We were both happy. Then on July 3rd, 2022, my wife delivered a beautiful, healthy 8-pound baby girl. To say that we were shocked would be an understatement. My daughter came home the next day, and since then, I'm still in awe of how we created something so perfect. We didn't figure out a name till she was a week old. but I'm happy to share that It's a Beautiful Name is what we came up with. We're still adjusting to life with an infant, but so far it has been nothing short of amazing. Thank you for your past advice, internet friends and strangers. Now, what do you guys make of this situation? How do you think it was dealt with in the end? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now, this next story is one that we've covered in the past, but now has a little update with it as well. So as usual, I'm going to cover the original story and then go on to the update. So if you've heard it before, as always, please feel free to use the timestamps along the timeline below, down in the description. That is what they're there for. And this one is from Lemons Are Upon Us, who says, am I the arsehole for not letting my sister announce her pregnancy at my wedding, even though I got proposed to at hers? Me, 28, and my sister, 32. Have never really gotten along that well. My parents were divorced, and so we never really spent much time together during our childhood. Once we got in our early 20s though, that changed and we actually got pretty close. Both of us were in serious relationships and we would always talk about our dream weddings. Fast forward a few years and my sister was finally getting married to a high school sweetheart. I've never seen her so happy, and I knew this was going to be one of her most cherished moments in life. That was until my dumbass of an ex-boyfriend proposed to me at my sister's wedding. Needless to say, I had absolutely no idea. I rejected his proposal and ended up leaving him after a few weeks of him showing no signs of him being sorry at all. My sister was rightfully upset with both of us because in her eyes, we just took away her spotlight on a day she's been dreaming of for years. I felt so bad that I ended up giving her around half of what she paid for the wedding. A little much, I know, but when you have your whole family against you, you'll do anything for things to go back to normal. It took a couple of months, but our bond came back and I ended up meeting my now fiance. Our wedding is in a couple of weeks and my sister has been making jokes about announcing her pregnancy at my wedding. At first the jokes were funny and I thought they had no real threat to them, but after today, it was pretty clear she was not actually joking. My mum called me telling me that my sister said she was going to announce that she was pregnant during the speeches part of our wedding to get back at me for what I did during hers. I text my sister saying that it was completely unfair to not just me, but especially to my fiance, and neither of us were to blame for what X did. She won't hear me out, and I told her if she won't drop it, then she won't be allowed at my wedding. I guess she's been crying to all our brothers saying I'm a bitch and a shitty sister for not only ruining her wedding, but for not letting her get a tiny bit of revenge. I get it. It must be hard to have that happen at your wedding. But how should it be my fault? I didn't tell him to do it and now my fiance definitely didn't either. My dad and brothers said I was being petty and that it was only fair I let her do that considering what happened at hers. My fiance is on my side though and thinks it's best I don't let her come, or at least not come to the reception. I know it might seem a bit unfair for me to not let her get back at me, but I didn't pay the 15k pity money just for her to ruin my wedding years later. We are both adults at this point and I think I could be being overdramatic. A pregnancy announcement and a proposal are two very different things, but I won't lie and say it wouldn't hurt my feelings if she did that to me. And a brief overview of the comments on this one was pretty much, if she pays that 15,000 back, yeah, she can make that announcement all she likes, but it's going to cost her that. And I was coming into this one thinking from the sister's point of view on her wedding day, seeing your sister get proposed to, like on your special day. It's not her fault, is it? It's her ex who's decided to make this choice and he's the one that did it and embarrassed her. She didn't say yes in that moment. She rejected him there and then. Yes, it could be upsetting that that happened on her special day, but it wasn't the sister's fault. But then for her to rally the family behind her and treat her like shit because of it is absolutely awful. And then for the time after to be thinking about this like revenge. I want to get my revenge, my tiny bit of revenge because I deserve it. It's an absolutely awful attitude to have towards your sibling that has done absolutely nothing wrong. So then OP comes in with a little update which said, I really hope this is the proper way to do an update and sorry if it's not. So today was my wedding and I'm glad to announce that it went amazing. I didn't have much drama to update you on since I've been blocking people in my family who's been mean to me about the situation. My husband and I ended up uninviting my sister, my father and older brother. We felt it was more important to us to have fun and non-stressful wedding rather than try to please my sister and do some sort of compromise. I definitely got a ton of shit for it at first, since I couldn't exactly tell everyone in the family why they were uninvited. I didn't want to ruin her moment again, lol. But when my sister announced her pregnancy a couple of days ago, I could finally tell my side, and pretty much everyone agreed with my decision. Sorry I don't have a super interesting update to give you all, but thanks to everyone who gave me an advice and made me realize I was in fact not an arsehole and had every right to be upset. Have a great day. And I like an update like this, nice, short and sweet, no drama. I think it's nice to see once in a while. And I'm glad everyone started agreeing with you, obviously apart from your sister, father and older brother, because otherwise it's just batshit crazy logic that they're going through. But what do you guys make of this one? What do you think about that update? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's have another story. Now, our next story comes from Mountain Respond, who says, am I the arsehole for buying a luxury watch instead of paying my fiance's parents back? I, 31 male, am in a relationship with a woman, Jen, 26 female. Jen and I have dated for 2 years now, and we got engaged 3 months ago. Neither Jen nor I are good with finances. In our city, this can't really be helped, seeing as everything is egregiously overpriced. But it is what it is, and we do the best we can. About a month ago, Jen and I decided to talk about our finances and savings, and so I brought up my online banking account to show her. In my checking account I had a few $1,000s, but in my savings account I had a bit over $8,000. Jen got super excited upon seeing that figure, saying we could use it to travel. I explained to Jen that this money was going towards a watch I wanted to buy. She responded with, and I quote, F that, saying that she wanted to go to Europe with me. I immediately popped that balloon, as this was the result of me saving $150 to $250 a month for years. I was extremely clear. Europe was not going to happen. Jen got a bit upset, but finally I got her to drop the issue. About a week later, Jen came to me and said that I needed to come with her to their travel agent because she had made a down payment for a package deal to France. Having seen her finances, I knew that Jen didn't have the money. When I asked her where she had come up with it, she said she borrowed it from her parents with the promise that she'd pay them back in about a week. Again, I was confused, but she said the money I had in my account was more than enough to pay them back, and that instead of getting a stupid overpriced watch, I should make memories with your fiance. I told her that she needed to go to the agency and beg for her money back, but she said it was too late. A few minutes later, I got in my car, drove to the watch store and told the guy I'd talked to about half a dozen times about the watch that I was ready to buy it. I paid in cash and came home. There, I showed Jen my watch and said, that savings account now has a few $100 in it. Get your money back. She shrieked at me about it, and I told her she had to go beg, cry and get on her knees at the agency if that's what it took. Miraculously, she pulled it off and paid her parents back in full. But now she's incredibly angry and keeps telling me that it's my turn to go beg for my money back. Her parents are completely on her side and keep saying that going into a lifetime commitment, I don't need a luxury watch. Not sure about this one. I think I might have jumped the gun on that purchase, but I had already made my mind up for years. Edit. I didn't think this was a financial advice board. I would include the following information because people here are incessantly focusing on how I spent my money. 1. I've maxed out my 401k every year since I was 23. In terms of retirement, my 20s were spent saving way more than the average American. 2. I spent the majority of my 20s also financially supporting my mentally ill sister. I no longer have to support her, and therefore I began dating Jen with marriage in mind. My question was about whether stranding Jen after an impulsive decision like that was an arsehole move. It wasn't about whether I should keep more money in my savings account. If anyone here who also maxed out their 401k throughout their 20s while supporting a family member would like to chime in, go ahead, but I don't really care. I love a sassy attitude towards the end. But since Elvis says, yeah, seeing how champing at the bit eager both of you all are to burn this measly 8k, I'm pretty sure that an overpriced city isn't to blame for your financial situation. ETA seen the replies from OP and I don't know, man. Try a relationship advice thing. Not the arsehole. Columbo's Peugeot says, you say neither you nor your fiance are good with money and blame it on the high cost of living in your city. Well, that's not the reason you guys aren't good with money. You're not good with money because you impulse spend. Fiance and the vacation, or you save for stupid things. You and the $8,000 watch. You didn't borrow money from her parents, so you're not the arsehole. That is on her, but man, you need to grow up and treat your finances more maturely. Shady Jang says everyone sucks here. Your girlfriend sucks for trying to spend your money for you without your agreement. You suck for spending that much money on a watch when you have no other savings and no other property. You're 31, OP. When are you going to start saving for retirement or a house? Just saying we suck at finances as we live in an expensive city doesn't work anymore. You're both adults and you'll both suffer if you don't start saving for important things now. If you're bad at finances, get good. Take some classes, hire a financial advisor. Don't waste your money on stupid shit. Edit. After reading OP's comments below, I still think he's also an arsehole. OP, you're the arsehole for running out and spending the money just to say fuck you to your girlfriend. Wasn't it enough that she was wrong and you didn't give her your money? You weren't going to buy the watch at that very moment before. So why did you have to do it now? To prove something? What were you proving? That you are in control of your own money? That's something a teenager does, not a grown man who is in control of his own money. Now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, support, and time always means the absolute world to me, so thank you so much for getting involved. Absolutely incredible. And hopefully, I will see you, the cheeky so-and-so, in the next one. Much love, guys.
Yeah, man, I remember being so naive when life was good, weather and palm trees. Back in the day, you were everything I need. But then along came a time when you crushed my dreams. Oh yeah, you played me like a fool when you made me believe that the line between love wasn't thick enough to read. Oh yeah, you see we in despair, crime everywhere. You're selling false hope cause you just don't care. Nah, you just don't care.